Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of NASCAR's Lost Teams, Osterlund Racing. Throughout NASCAR history, there have been several millionaires who have owned teams. Rod Osterlund was one of those millionaires. He earned his fortune from rental property in California. He was the owner of Osterlund Racing, a NASCAR Cup Series team that competed from 1977 through 1981, then again from 1989 through 1991. A few of the drivers who spent time driving for Osterlund Racing were Neil Bonnett, Dave Marcis, Dale Earnhardt, Hut Stricklin, and Jimmy Spencer. Osterlund Racing debuted in 1977 at Michigan, race 15 of the season, with Roland Waladica behind the wheel of number 91 Chevrolet, starting 36th and finishing 29th. Roland made 4 other starts throughout the remainder of the 77 season, with the best finish of 15th at Ontario in the fall. Marv Acton and Dave Marcis each made 2 starts. Acton's best finish was 23rd at Richmond in the fall, and Marcis's best finish was 14th at Ontario in the fall. As well as Jimmy Means, Dick May, and Sam Summers, they each made 1 start apiece. Means finished 36th at Talladega in the summer, May finished 32nd at Atlanta in the fall, and Summers finished 14th at North Wilkesboro in the fall. At the conclusion of the season, Roger Penske sold the number 2 and his owner points to Osterlund. For the 1978 season, Dave Marcis became the team's full-time driver, behind the wheel of the number 2 Shoney Chevrolet. Marcis and the number 2 team had a very strong season, though they were not able to find victory lane. His best start was 3rd 3 times, at Bristol and Charlotte in the spring, then at Riverside in the summer. His best finish was 2nd at Atlanta in the spring. Overall, in 30 starts, Marcis scored 14 top 5s and 24 top 10s, finishing a solid 5th in final NASCAR Cup Series point standings. After Jim Stacy's race shop was padlocked over an unpaid loan, Osterlund became the owner of Neil Bonnett's number 5 Armor All Dodge, which became a Chevrolet once Osterlund became the owner. In 14 starts, Bonnett's best start was 3rd, twice, at Nashville in the summer and Richmond in the fall. His best finish was 3rd, also at Richmond in the fall. All things considered, Bonnett ran all right in the second half of the 1978 Cup Series season, though the number 5 team was absolutely plagued by DNFs, netting 10 and 14 starts. Overall, Bonnett scored 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s. Osterlund also fielded a second entry, the number 98 Chevrolet, in 8 races. 1 for Dale Earnhardt in Atlanta in the fall, starting 10th and finishing a strong 4th. The following week at Ontario, Jimmy Insolo was behind the wheel of the team's number 98 Kelly Girl Chevrolet. He started 10th and finished a decent 7th. Then, 7 attempts were made by Roland Waladica behind the wheel of the team's number 98 Chevrolet. He did qualify for 6 races. His best start was 8th at Bristol, and his best finish was 18th in Atlanta, both in the spring. Now, the fact that Osterlund wanted to run 2 full-time teams starting the following season was the reason Marcis left Osterlund's team at the conclusion of the 78 season. Well, with Marcis leaving the team at the conclusion of the 78 season, Osterlund signed Dale Earnhardt to drive his number 2 Chevrolets and Buicks full-time for the 1979 season. Suitcase Jake Elder served as the team's crew chief for the 1979 season. For a driver's rookie season, Earnhardt took his team to a strong 1979 Cup Series season, honestly. His best start was 1st, 4 times, at Riverside in the summer, then Richmond, Dover, and North Wilkesboro in the fall. His best finish was 1st at Bristol in the spring. Overall, in 27 starts, he scored 4 poles, 1 win, 11 top 5s, and 17 top 10s, finishing 7th in final Cup Series point standings. Earnhardt was injured, and David Pearson served as his fill-in driver, making 4 starts altogether, never qualifying worse than 5th, with a best finish of 1st. Not to mention, Earnhardt won Rookie of the Year honors for the 1979 Cup Series season. As the calendar switched from the 1970s to the 1980s, in 1980, Dale Earnhardt remained with the Osterlund Racing team. Jake Elder began the 1980 season as the team's crew chief, though by the spring race at Charlotte, Elder left the team at the conclusion of the event, due to disagreements with both Osterlund and other members of the race team. Young Doug Reichert became the number 2 team's crew chief. Earnhardt's best start was second at Ontario in the fall, and his best finish was first 5 times at Bristol and Atlanta in the spring, the Nashville Fairgrounds in the summer, then Martinsville and Charlotte in the fall. Overall, he scored 0 poles, 5 wins, 19 top 5s, and 24 top 10s, winning the 1980 NASCAR Cup Series championship, becoming the first ever driver to win Rookie of the Year honors one season, and then immediately the following season win the NASCAR Cup Series championship. Also in 1980, Osterlund Racing would have 2 other drivers who made starts for the team. Dan Gurney made 1 start for the team at Riverside in the spring behind the wheel of a number 48 Luberlon Theodore Racing Chevrolet, starting 7th and finishing 28th after suffering transmission failure at lap 79. Janet Guthrie made 1 start at Daytona in the spring behind the wheel of number 82 Texaco Star Chevrolet, starting 18th and finishing a decent 11th. That following season, in 1981, Osterlund Racing began the season as normal, with plans to run the full Cup Series schedule. Wrangler Jeans would become the team's primary sponsor, though the economic recession of the early 1980s put Osterlund in financial trouble. By race 16 at Michigan in the summer, Osterlund had abruptly sold his team to none other than Jim Stacy. In the first 15 starts of the 1981 season, Earnhardt scored 7 top 5s and 11 top 10s. Then Osterlund would sell his race team to Jim Stacy in the middle of the 1981 season. Osterlund would reappear in NASCAR in the late 80s and early 1990s, fielding 1 car, the number 57 Heinz Pontiac. A few notable drivers spent time behind the wheel of the number 57, such as Hut Stricklin and Jimmy Spencer. Roland Wolodka served as the team's crew chief until race 8 at Martinsville, followed by Donnie Allison for 2 races. Then they settled on Doug Reichert as their permanent crew chief. For the 1989 season, Hut Stricklin served as the driver of the number 57 Heinz Chevrolet. They did DNQ twice. Stricklin's best start was 11th in Atlanta in the fall, and his best finish was 4th at Michigan in the summer. Overall, in 27 starts, they scored 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s, finishing 26th in final Cup Series point standings. Jim Bound made 3 starts, filling in for Stricklin. His best start was 38th, and his best finish was 27th, both coming at Rockingham in the fall. Stricklin and Osterlund parted ways at the conclusion of the 1989 season. Jimmy Spencer became the team's new driver for the 1990 NASCAR Cup Series season, behind the wheel of the number 57 Heinz Ketchup Pontiac full-time. The team spent the majority of the year a mid-pack team, really. Spencer's best start was 6th twice at Daytona and Atlanta in the spring, and his best finish was 8th at Rockingham in the spring. Overall, the team scored 2 top 10s, 7 top 15s, and 14 top 20s, finishing 22nd in final Cup Series point standings. Spencer and Osterlund parted ways at the conclusion of the season. In 1991, Osterlund Racing would make their final NASCAR Cup Series start in the 91 Daytona 500. Buddy Baker would serve as the team's driver of a number 88 Marines Pontiac as part of R.J. Reynolds supporting Operation Desert Storm. The number 88 team started in a reasonable 16th, only to finish 37th after losing an engine on lap 35. So, in 201 NASCAR Cup Series starts, the team scored 5 poles, 7 wins, 59 top 5s, and 91 top 10s, with the best points finish of first by Dale Earnhardt in 1980. Thanks for watching, and take care.